1973, a little girl was living a nightmare. Maria Colwell, who had spent her early years with a loving family, was returned to her neglectful mother and became a target for her violent stepfather. Despite many warnings of concerned citizens, Maria Colwell was ignored, and in January 1973 she was brutally beaten and died. Hello everybody, and welcome back to my channel where we talk about real crimes and real people. This is the violent death of Maria Colwell. Want to know what happened? Let's get started. Maria Ann Colwell was born on March 26, 1965 in Hove, Sussex, England. Her parents were Raymond and Pauline Colwell. Maria was the fifth of 5 children, and she also had an older half-sister who was with her grandmother since birth. A few months after Maria was born, her father Raymond left and died shortly after. Pauline Colwell struggled to raise 5 children on her own, so they went into foster care. Maria stayed with Doris and Bob Cooper. Doris was Raymond's sister. The Coopers loved Maria, and she was well taken care of, and she was very happy. After Raymond left and died, Pauline didn't wait long to find a new partner. She started a relationship with a man named William Kepple, whom she planned to have a family with. William was a drunk and a violent man who couldn't care less about Pauline's children, but Pauline wanted to get Maria back. June 4th, 1966, Pauline took Maria back. But Pauline and William's situation wasn't appropriate to raise a child. They were struggling, so Pauline gave Maria to another woman to raise her. However, Maria was returned to the Coopers, where she lived happily for 6 years. Pauline and William, who eventually married, had 3 children of their own, but Pauline kept in touch with Maria occasionally. She still hadn't let go of the idea of getting Maria back into her care, but she really didn't care for her at all. There were several reports along the years about Pauline and William leaving the children. The Coopers and the Kepples weren't fond of each other. Pauline refused to let Mrs. Cooper christen Maria because she had become a Roman Catholic when she married William. April 1970, Maria started at infant school, and she also had a new social worker handling her case. Pauline once again expressed her intentions to get Maria's custody, and Maria was told about the possibility of returning to her mother. This caused her tremendous distress. Regardless of every agency involved with Maria Colwell's case, Maria seemed invisible to every single one of them. Negligent and bad choices would turn into tragedy, and little Maria wouldn't come out of it alive. Because Pauline had showed interest to get Maria back, from April to October 1971, Maria visited her mother and stepfather. These visits were pure torture for the young girl. She would scream, cry, and kick whenever she was taken from Mrs. Cooper. Every time she had to visit Pauline and William, she would hide. She was fearful of not being able to return to Mrs. Cooper. Her ordeal caused her school to express their concerns. Maria was returned to Pauline on trial, but she ran away. Despite numerous visits from social workers, and despite that it was clear Maria didn't want to leave the Coopers and go live with Pauline, Maria was never asked what she wanted, what she needed, so her interests were disregarded and ignored. October 1971, Maria Colwell returned to her mother, and she went to live with Pauline and William Kepple and her half-siblings in Brighton, England. The reason for being placed back with her mother was that Pauline was her birth mother and they shared blood ties. While living with the Kepples, Maria was subject to physical and emotional abuse. She was beaten and starved. On several occasions, she was seen looking for food in trash cans. She had to do odd chores and was forced to stay in a room. She was seen by neighbors barred in her own room at home. Maria also became withdrawn from school. Pauline and William favored their children over Maria. Every time William bought something, he would make Maria watch her half-siblings eat it, whatever he had bought for them. Months went by. Neighbors and teachers expressed their concerns to several agencies. Despite several visits to the home and the warning signs like physical injuries and bruising, social services and all the professionals involved ignored Maria's ordeal, and no action was taken to protect Maria. So she remained with the monsters in her life, the Kepples. On January 6, 1973, William Kepple arrived at home at 11 p.m. Maria was still awake watching TV because her mother was afraid of her drunk and violent husband. William kicked Maria repeatedly. She was left with internal and external injuries. Neither William nor Pauline called for help. William went to bed. On the morning of January 7, 1973, William took Maria in a baby stroller to the Royal Sussex County Hospital in Brighton, where she died shortly after. Maria Colwell had several internal injuries and brain damage. After the autopsy, the pathologist stated this had been the worst case he had ever seen. Maria hadn't been fed, her eyes were black, and she had a fractured rib. Maria's injuries were a result from extreme violence. William Kepple was found guilty of manslaughter and was sentenced to 8 years, which were reduced when he appealed. All of Maria's siblings and half-siblings were taken into foster care. The case caused tremendous outrage because people believed Maria's death was preventable, and it was. Agencies and all the professionals involved made huge mistakes, and they believed Maria should have never been removed from her foster home. An inquiry funded by the public showed the lack of communication between agencies and the inadequate training for social workers assigned to at-risk children, and changes in the make-up society. After all, it was 1973. All of these factors contributed to the demise of Maria Colwell. The case of Maria Colwell triggered legislation and child protection procedures which have evolved throughout the years in the UK. Even though in recent years social workers and social services have failed tremendously, resulting into tragic cases like Demi Lee Mahone and Tia Rigg. The priority should be keeping the children safe. And sometimes safe means keeping them away from their biological families, because every child matters.